How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? I know that no one's doing well, and I don't blame you guys at all. If you're watching this live right now, thank you guys so much for being here. If you're watching replay, thank you so much as well. We have a lot to deep dive today. Unfortunately, this is not the reason why I want to be live streaming today. Originally, it was supposed to be to cover the post game for the Mets in their spring training game, which I do believe is still going on, if I'm not mistaken. But given the fact that there was a rain delay in that game and all the starters were taken out early, just felt it wasn't warranted. If you want to touch on it briefly in the live stream, we can today for sure. But the big news, as we all know, why you guys are watching this, Jacob deGrom is in fact going to miss significant time for the New York Mets, at least for the first half this season. So we're going to be deep diving everything that was announced at this point. My initial reaction, I'm going to be completely blunt with you guys. I feel sick to my stomach. I'm still trying to really garner my thoughts and try to go about this the most appropriate way I possibly can, because even though that this definitely isn't the worst thing in the world, it is by all means not easy to be optimistic with what has transpired here. And I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, my thoughts here and what is next for the Mets, again, given this latest injury to Jacob deGrom, the best pitcher in baseball. But I do want to address a quick donation here. Rip indeed. Exactly, LSD. Thank you so much for the donation, though. Again, shout out everybody in the live stream. If you guys are going to end up enjoying the live stream covered somehow, make sure to smash that like and subscribe on. Appreciate everyone being in here as always, because again, this is something for us Mets fans. We all have to come together right now. I know everyone's going to share their frustrations. They're going to say some pretty bad stuff in the live stream or in the comments on replay. And again, these things are inevitably going to be happening, but I'm just like you guys. I'm going through the emotions as we speak right now. But let's talk about, okay, what happened, right? Well, Jacob deGrom had his MRI today. We all know that. And of course, it comes out that he has a stress reaction on his scapula, and that is his shoulder. The positives in this is that this isn't dealing with a tendon or anything like that, but it's dealing with the bone, and that's something that you have to make sure that you don't rush. So because of this, and he first felt the tightness in his shoulder yesterday just while playing catch, because Jake plays catch literally every day, regardless on if he's pitching that day or not. That's just a normal routine for him, especially here in spring. So thank God they didn't pitch him today, obviously. Got the MRI, and now he's out a minimum of 1 month where he cannot throw a baseball, and then he will be reevaluated then. But even in the best case scenario for Jacob deGrom, where he gets reevaluated, he's 100% better and everything's good to go, because there's nothing broken here. This is nothing where, okay, you look at it and it's like, oh my goodness, okay, it's torn, like he's out for the season. No, it's not like that. But just in the best case scenario for Jacob deGrom, where he gets ramped up in time, after not being able to pitch for a month, we're not going to see Jake for at least a minimum of 2 months. And there's unfortunately a very solid chance Jake doesn't pitch at all in the entire first half of the season. That is the reality we're facing right now, folks. And while I definitely hope he comes back sooner, this is such a touchy situation that's going to be fluent. And again, this is assuming that there's no setbacks, that Jake can be back basically 2 months from now. And again, it's just an unbelievably tough pill to swallow for us Mets fans. We all have been ecstatic for this season. Don't get me wrong, I'm still happy for this season. I really wish that this was an April Fool's joke, a cruel one that I was playing on you guys, but unfortunately that is not the case right now. Jacob deGrom is going to miss some serious time, and God willing, he will be back as soon as humanly possible. But this is something that's still so fresh, so new. We're going to find out more information over the coming days. But as of now, he will not be throwing a baseball for a month's time at the minimum, and then he'll be reevaluated, and we go from there. So now it's really what is next for the Mets, right? How are they going to go about this? Now, I would like to start off before I get to some donations and some questions. I'll definitely be doing that soon. Again, shout out all you guys being here. I do appreciate it. The upside is that, thank God, the New York Mets have this guy named Max Scherzer. If the Mets did not have Mad Max, and boy, oh boy, would we be in deeper trouble. The Mets have a competent rotation right now. By no means is it arguably the best in baseball that has been deemed by many fans throughout there with Jacob. And you can't replace Jacob deGrom, guys. You simply can't do that. So what are the Mets going to do now, right? Are they going to operate with their current rotation? Well, we'll deep dive at plenty more here in the live stream, but my initial gut reaction until we get further announcements is that the Mets are going to stick with what they have, and then they are going to reevaluate and really check out the market and see what they're dealing with. Do I know for certain if the Mets are going to act desperate and go all in on, say, a bigger name pitcher like another Oakland A's starter that's available, and a Sean Manaea or Frankie Montas? I don't know that at this point in time, but you'd have to think that they're definitely going to be weighing their options, because the Mets have to make sure they do not put themselves in a position like last year where losing Jake ends up being the complete demise of their season. Because let's keep in mind, best scenario, Jacob deGrom is out 2 months. That is your best scenario we're looking at for the most part. 2 months is a good portion of the season, okay? How much can that impact this rotation? Yes, you have Mad Max. hoping he stays healthy again. He's, again, another guy that you want to make sure he's staying healthy. I'm assuming he'll be good to go, though. Then you have Chris Bassett, who is a beautiful number 2 now. Thank God that the Mets landed him, because if they didn't, we would be in even more trouble. Taijuan Walker, we don't even know for certain if he'll be ready to go for the opening day rotation. He's probably going to be now. He has one more game that he'll be pitching for the Mets early next week, his final spring start, until he will hopefully be ramped up and ready to go for the rotation. Cookie Carrasco, he's still an uncertainty with production that we're going to get from him. He went from being a number 5 guy to really being a number 4, which does make a significant difference. And Tyler McGill is now locked in for this rotation. McGill, don't get me wrong, he has plenty of possibility to really thrive in this Mets rotation, but this is definitely not something that us Mets fans want to be in at this point in time, knowing that we're already without the best pitcher in baseball again for at least a couple months at minimum. And now we're dealing with, okay, if one more guy goes down, or if one guy or multiple are completely inconsistent, this rotation, before you know it, falls completely flat on its face. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Mets evaluate this. I expect them to obviously do their due diligence in the market. You literally have to, okay? Even if you miss a minimum of 2 months for Jake, you have to add some insurance there at this point. Even if it's more depth, that's maybe not to the likes of a Sean Manaea, Frankie Montas, a Tyler Miley, and Miley's going to cost you a good amount. That's why they landed Bassett to begin with, right? Same thing with Montas and Miley. The Reds don't even want to part with him, so it'd be even that more difficult to try to land him now. Point is that the Mets, they need to add more depth. Yes, you have Jordan Yamamoto. Yes, you have David Pearson, but those guys are not going to help you all that much in this rotation. You're expecting so much from them in a crucial spot in the starting 5 for a Mets team that's trying to go on a run this year. They have to act rather quick, in my opinion, whether that means that they will land a significant starter or just bolster more depth-wise so they just have a plethora of options. We're going to find out. I definitely think that we will find out sooner than later. The Mets are going to feel things out with how the season starts in this rotation and kind of go from there. Don't get me wrong. Thankfully, the Mets still do have a strong rotation. But again, you can't replace Jacob deGrom. It's as simple as that. When you lose someone like him, you are automatically in a far worse spot than what you were previously. The only upside, again, is that the Mets are in a better spot than what they were last year after they lost Jake, because they still have Max Scherzer, Chris Bassett. If you can get competent baseball from Taijuan Walker, Tyler McGill, and Cookie Carrasco, if you can get them around a 4 ERA or a high 3 throughout the season, then the Mets are still cooking in this rotation. They're still going to be very much competitive. But again, you can't compare anyone to Jake. So this is, again, I don't know how many times I need to repeat this, but this is just a fat pill to swallow, guys. I'm getting a little choked up. I'm not gonna lie. Just I don't think I'm wrong for feeling caught off guard the way that I am. I don't think anyone else is. For all my pessimists out there that thought the worst yesterday with Jacob deGrom, you ended up holding true in the end. Not to the extent of, okay, Jake's out for the season or anything like that, but just the fact that realistically, there's a very strong possibility we may not have Jacob deGrom for the entire first half of the season. And again, wishful thinking is that he will be back in 6 to 8 weeks at earliest. That's a good portion of baseball. Can the Mets afford to be without Jake for upwards of 2 months? I think they can afford it. Yeah, I definitely do. But does that mean that you're still going to risk having the rotation as things stand for that minimum of a time? I don't know. And that's something that Billy Epler is going to have to realize sooner than later. No, the season is not over by any means, but don't get me wrong when I say that, yes, I am definitely not as happy as what I was going into the season right now. And I don't blame anyone else for feeling the same. People are telling me to check tweets. I'll do that right now. And if you guys are in the live stream right now, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Again, if you're just chiming in for consistent Mets coverage and news here on the channel. And let me know also if there's any tweets that I miss. Let me know here in the live stream also. But let me check this out real quick, guys. Buster Only, I absolutely despise Buster. So what did he say? Okay, so nothing new from Buster. He's just talking up stuff. Okay, something that I would like to say, and I know we got donations. I do apologize I haven't addressed them yet. I just have to get out my quick rant to you guys, so that way we can kind of go from there. So I will address them very soon, and I appreciate them all. Thank you guys so much. When you look at where the Mets stand right now and this rotation and Jacob deGrom and this injury, a good point that had come out was from Michael Mayer, said this of Mets Mirage, that as Passan noted in his article about Jacob deGrom, He has the same injury that former Mets pitcher Michael Wacha had back in 2014 during his prime days with the St. Louis Cardinals, and Wacha was shut down in mid-June and returned on September 4th. That's a scenario that can't even that's a scenario that really us Mets fans would hope for in regards to the amount of time that Jake would be missing. Mid-June to September 4th. Okay. I mean, 2+ months. Like, that is probably what we're looking at minimum right now. So Scherzer, health-wise, thankfully, he's good to go. There's been no cause for concern with him from what we saw last year when he was with the Dodgers. That isn't the case right now. But again, this is just a gut punch. This is a stab in the heart, every which way that you can look at it. So let me address some donations, and then we'll go further, guys. Again, shout out all you being here. I know us Mets fans are all grieving together, and we all want to talk about this because as much as we hate to talk about it, we got to talk about it. Shout out all my members in the chat, too. I apologize if I missed some of your names here as well. Again, please don't take it personally. I'm just trying to get everything wrapped up and ready to go here as I'm having this discussion. John, with a $5 donation, thank you so much for that. Make a trade. Can't have the second highest payroll and not be all in. The strength was the top 3. All that money, not the best team in the division. I mean, hear me out. The Mets, even with everything that they did, were still not the best team in the division. The Braves are always going to be the team to beat. So I've never been under that fantasy that the Mets are the best team in this division. They have never proven to be that. They have to prove that this season. They can certainly do that. I hope that they do that. But I'm not against you in the sense of should they make a trade? Yeah, naturally, I'm going to lean more so that I would like the Mets to make a move. That's always going to be my automatic reaction when you lose the best pitcher in baseball for a minimum of 2 months. That's minimum we're talking about. Maximum, who knows? Appreciate that donation, John. Elsie, way injury prone. I'm not surprised. And even me being a Braves fan, I'm still sad because I know how it's like with Acuna. I mean, exactly. Thankfully for you guys were at least able to win a championship still without Acuna. So, he'll be good for you guys once he's healthy this year. But he is injury prone, but he's not way too injury prone. That's the fallacy about Jake. Jake did not miss much of any time between 2019 and the 2020 shortened season. Last year was really the first one that smacked him across the face. All of Jake's injuries prior to his main one that put him on the 60-day IL in the second half of last season that ended his season early was from swinging the bat, which was even more ridiculous that was actually happening. He was doing great with his batting, but he kept getting hurt by tweaking himself from his swing. Then he had that major injury with the partially torn UCL, even though that Jake denounced that from what Sandy originally said. And now here we are with a shoulder injury, which again, I'm beyond grateful that this is not a tear, that this is not, a ligament. This isn't anything that is season ending on the forefront. But just the fact that, again, you're basically looking at, in a nutshell, a good portion, if not the entirety of your first half of the season without the best pitcher in baseball. How will the Mets combat that? Will they have enough strength in their current rotation as is, or will they need to add more? We will find out soon. Mike, thank you so much for the $10 donation as well. I appreciate that, my man. Hype in the chat for Mike. Appreciate all you guys for the donations and stuff. So, everybody, let's see. Let me ask you guys in a poll. I'm going to ask you guys in a poll in the live stream right now. And then we'll go from there. And again, appreciate all you guys being here. Hold on, just give me 1 sec, folks. Okay, I'm going to put a poll up for you guys now. I want to hear what you have to say. Okay, there we go. Want to get the update in the chat. Okay. And I know, like I said, I know we're gonna have all hell is breaking loose here in the live chat. I fully expect that. That's just gonna happen. Get Castillo. Castillo ain't going anywhere, and the Mets aren't gonna especially do that now because the Reds will know that the Mets would show a desperation factor, and they would land a trade that would hurt the Mets. So I don't see that happening. Herman Marcotte, Herman, I can't even speak right now. Marquez got traded to the Yankees. That's cap. And yes, it's April Fool's too, so I know that naturally we're going to have people acting in the chat about news that didn't actually happen. Let's see here. You're going to be quite reactionary this stream. I appreciate that you're telling me in advance. Thank you for that. Juan Papo, thank you so much for the $5 donation. I bet he won't opt out now. Injuries has been a major blemish on his career, especially the two recent ones. You can't be the best out. Great. I'm glad you brought up the opt-out because I was planning to discuss that a little bit. So let some people call in. No, not today. You guys are going to be screaming your head off and doing things that are going to cause me to not even have this stream monetized. No chance. Not today. But to answer this question, great donation here from Papa. Thank you so much, my friend. What I will say is that depending on how much time Jake misses this season, it will 1000% dictate if he opts out or not. That's simply put. I don't really see a world where Jake opts out if he misses half a season. I really don't, to be quiet, because that isn't proving enough for him and the Mets that he can stay healthy consistently for years on end to warrant the new deal. So, yeah, it's really going to be up to if Jake misses the minimum, there is still potential that he opts out. But I would be unbelievably surprised if Jake opts out if he misses at least half the season this year. I just don't see how that realistically will go in his favor. So yeah, no, great donation, great question. And that's something that I know a lot of us will be discussing a lot throughout the year in regards to, his opt-out status. It'll all be dictated by, of course, how much time he misses, right? That's just how it's going to be. But everyone chiming in the live stream again, appreciate you guys all being in here. I know that, that this is probably some of the worst news that we could think about, imagine prior to the season starting. And I'm 1000% with you guys. I don't disagree with you at all. And this is a tough pill. This is a tough pill. So looking at the Mets, where they currently stand, do they still have a strong rotation? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. They still very much have a strong rotation, but that strong rotation is also banking on uncertainties with your 3, 4, and 5. If those guys play to their potential, do I think the Mets are in perfectly fine hands for at least a month or two? Yeah, I absolutely do. But if those guys do not play to their potential, that's a big red flag. If one of those guys falls down with injury, we're screwed. That's simply put. The Mets will need to act, and that's why I expect the Mets to do another move here. Whether that's, in the next coming weeks, whether that's a month from now, after seeing, a month's worth of games with this starting 5, I think that that's definitely possible as well. It'll all go in hand with Jake and, when he's coming upon return. I could definitely see a world where the Mets wait until at least a month before really deciding how they want to go about things. But the issue, however, in doing that is if their heart is, say, set on not just letting depth, but another quality starter, Chaminade, Frankie Montas have a good possibility of being gone by time they would potentially do that trade. If they say want to wait upwards of a month of games, which I wouldn't blame them for doing that at all. You want to wait things out, but they already have a market right now. The Yankees like Chaminade. Frankie Montas has been tagged with the Twins in multiple clubs. Those guys are going to probably land somewhere potentially within the next week or so by the time opening day comes around. So are the Mets going to show a desperation factor here? Given this Jacob deGrom news, there's definitely potential. I'm not going to get my hopes up on it, but it's definitely something that we're going to have to keep a close eye on and evaluate over this next 7 to 10 days. Because of the fact that these are two pitchers for Oakland that have a hot market as is. The Mets, I was never under the belief that the Mets would go out and land another quality starter once they landed Chris Bassett for the most part. But now everything completely turns on its head. There's a completely different outlook on this. That's the big thing. So that's what we're really going to have to find out soon. I'm really curious to see how Billy Epler is going to operate with this. I do believe that he's going to wait this out a little bit. Maybe he's going to act a lot more desperate than I originally imagined. But all I know is that the Mets simply cannot afford to put themselves in position this season or they maybe wait out too long. It doesn't go in their favor. The pitchers that really made sense for them on the market and via trade are gone because there's really no one in free agency. There's Johnny Cueto, but are the Mets really going to go out and get Johnny Cueto? How much is that going to do for you? Is Johnny Cueto going to be better than Tyler McGill for you? I don't know if he is. Tyler McGill is a solid pitcher. Like, he very well can be. Tyler McGill could be the saving grace for the Mets in this rotation this season. But it's the fact that we don't know that. Those uncertainties are killers. That's what us Mets fans are accustomed and known for dealing with every single season. Now we find ourselves back in that same spot in the sense of uncertainties. And it sucks because, don't get me wrong, every single team goes through uncertainties. But this is one of those situations where if you don't act quickly enough, you may find yourself in a pretty bad spot. And then who knows where you're going to be come the trade deadline. You know, this is such a tricky new situation. And I know that it does suck that, again, that this happened. Don't get me wrong. It again is the worst news that you could possibly get prior to the season began. I know that we got people, basically wishing the absolute worst on Jake in the chat. I don't condone that whatsoever. The man isn't at fault for this injury happening. He did nothing wrong at all. It is what it is. But again, I know that people, animosities, high tensions are high. I'm going to give the pass for this one just because I know that regardless, people are going to act the way that they're going to act. If I agree or disagree, that's just how it's going to be. I'm not upset. I'm not bothered by the fact that other people are bothered. Everyone has a right to be upset right now. Let's see. A couple donations I'd like to address here, though, before we go further, folks. Let's see here. And again, thank you all so much for the donos. Kane Well with the $20 donation. Thank you so much for that, my man. I appreciate that. That definitely means a lot, especially in times of grief like this. Not even joking. LSC, thank you so much for the $5 dono. deGrom just stepped on a Claymore out for season. Ever career death, not April Fools. Okay, well, not the time, LSC. I appreciate the donation, but not a good time for jokes if you're not trying to get absolutely roasted here in the live stream. But I appreciate your support, no less. If you guys don't know, LSD is a Braves fan, so naturally he's gonna go about things the way he will. And Anthony, thank you for being in here. Again, I'm not happy that I'm sharing this information with you guys. I'm discombobulated. You're absolutely right. I'm 1000% discombobulated, Ralph. I don't know how you're not discombobulated if you're a Mets fan right now. Thankfully, again, the Mets are in a good spot when it comes to their rotation than what it would have been without Max Scherzer. They already have one of the best in baseball, but it would have been really nice if we had both arguably the number one and number two in baseball to start the season. Now we don't. Max, man, oh man, he's going to have to fill some big shoes right away. Thankfully, he's the best guy to do it. I mean, as long as Max is healthy, there really isn't a pitcher that you could say is better for this type of stage to handle being the number one of a rotation. He's done it how many times throughout his career? So again, thank the Lord for that, at least, that we have Max and Chris Bassett too. Chris is going to be in a bigger spot now. The spotlight is going to be heavier on him. We'll see how he handles that. We'll see how he handles the pressure and the media. An Oakland A's guy, he's looked great in spring thus far, but he goes from being like a beautiful kind of, cushion from having Jake and Max in front of him to now being that number two right away. And he's just as important as Max now. So it definitely changes the perspective a bit. And again, it'll be really curious to see how Billy Epler, how the Mets overall, how Steve Cohen feels and operates about this. This is a fluent situation, ever moving situation. So I do expect them to at least be doing their due diligence at the very least over these next couple weeks, and would not be surprised whatsoever if they go out and land an arm or two. Wouldn't be surprised either if they wait things out up at least a month and see where they're looking. Not just, with the standings, but more so just with the actual pitching performance. Let's see. We should trade sign a starter. Yeah, I know that's how most people feel in the chat. And I tend to agree with you guys. I want certainties, okay? As much as I want to see Tyler McGill carve it up and be an absolute stud for the Mets this year, as much as I want Cookie Carrasco to just be a competent number 4, number 5, as much as I want Taijuan Walker to step up and prove himself after a piss poor second half season last year, I want all those things, but those things aren't guaranteed at the end of the day. And not having guarantees can easily make or break your season. We've seen it time and time again. This is a broken record with the Mets. So let's see where you guys are at in the poll here before we go forward, everybody. Again, thank you all so much for being here. We're almost at 100 likes. Help us get 200 likes by the end of the live stream. I always appreciate it, especially for the fact that we're talking about bad news. I appreciate all the likes and the support. And trust me, guys, the likes are important just because it helps get out there for more of us, for more viewers to check it out. That's the reason behind it. Outside of you guys liking somehow what I'm discussing or how I'm going about things, I'm dead inside. You and I both Mets fan. Trust me. How do you think I feel? I'm just trying to be composed here in front of, upwards of 400 people live right now, and however many are going to be watching on replay. And to my people watching on replay, this is probably where we're going to cut things off. So to everyone that didn't watch this in the live stream but watched on replay, this is where we're going to cut things off, where it's cropped for the video. So odds are you probably watched it up to this point. I appreciate, though, to everyone watching and replay again. Let me know in the comments down below. How do you feel about this Jacob deGrom news? What do you want the Mets to do? How do you think that they're going to react to this news? Do you expect them to make a trade or some depth signings, or do you expect them to stand pat for a bit? Whatever your thoughts are, make sure to let me know. Hit that like and subscribe button as always. As much as I know it's difficult to enjoy this kind of content, but more consistent coverage for the Mets coming all throughout the season here on WardyNYM. And thank you for watching to all my people on replay.